What we see in our mirror or in photographs is our physical form, the limitation being the scope of vision through our eyes. Are there some aspects to our form that we cannot see? What lies beyond our limited vision? It's time to explore. Form and formlessness. To be interested in and understand someone's life, there must be a message or a learning to be derived from that effort. Only when such a story can transform attitudes with the inculcation of new attributes can it be considered life-changing. Gurudev's story begins closer to ground zero but progresses to the pinnacle of human attainment, becoming a series of benchmarks of human aspiration, particularly in the realm of metaphysics. If this series of podcasts about Gurudev can inspire you to evolve a few notches upwards, then they are true sounds of silence. Those who are destined to will listen to the messages embedded in them and work towards changing their nature to what might seem difficult but not impossible, a supernature. Let Gurudev's biography be a torch and his life a potential path. Try to get his blessings to manifest and become a conduit to a changing form, an inner, invisible form. A transformation from inner ugliness to inner beauty. Let him be our spiritual surgeon. Let's begin by examining the multiple forms that a human being is made of. One is the form you see physically. The other is the Sushma Sharir or the spirit body, which is normally seen in the dream state and on a few occasions through open eyes when one is in a psychic frame of mind. The third form of a person is the self-reflection of one's guna mix. In simple words, gunas are the subtle energies that express themselves as attitudes and attributes of everything. They are types of Prakriti, also known as creative energy or Shakti, namely Tamas, Rajas and Sattva. Tamas stands for inertia, Rajas for dynamism and activity, and Sattva for minimalism and higher thinking. A person's guna form is not visible to the human eye and can be seen either through the Divya Drishti or the third eye, or in the dream state. If this sounds mysterious, it certainly is. I've pondered on why so many people saw Gurudev in the perceived Shiv Roop. Was it mere dharmic or religious conjecture? Was it preconditioning to the fact that we had all heard that Gurudev was a Shishya or disciple of Shiv? Besides, there were photos of Shankar, a manifestation of Shiv, in our sthans, which are centers of help and healing that Gurudev set up. Shiv is not a definable form. It is that level of consciousness where one identifies with the supreme power and does not look at oneself as an identified particle. Its physical representation is the Shivlingam. Many people saw and some continue to see Gurudev in the Shiv Roop, in their dreams, visions, and occasionally with eyes wide open. Even though the conversations in this podcast are a very small peek into his supernature, I wanted to piece together the jigsaw puzzle for you to see the graphic that was him. Let's head to Kanpur to meet Surindarji and his sister Rajalakshmi, affectionately called Guddan. They run a sthan there.
तो आपके ऐसी कोई ड्रीम्स हैं जो गुरुदेव के साथ है जो आप शेयर करना चाहेंगे? कि जैसे कि हम गुरु जी के पास आए थे, थोड़े दिन हुए थे, कुछ दिन मतलब कुछ साल हो गए थे, तब मैंने एक सपना देखा कि मतलब मेरे फादर की तबीयत बहुत खराब है अचानक, और फादर लेटे हुए हैं और हम गुरुजी को ढूंढ रहे हैं, गुरुजी कहाँ है, गुरुजी कहाँ है। हमको कोई बताता कि जाओ वहां देखो जाकर के, वो पूरा मेरे को अभी तक पूरा याद है। मैं जाती हूँ मैं गुरुजी को ढूंढने के लिए, जब गुरुजी को ढूंढती जाकर के तो मैं झांक के देखती हूँ, तो वो जिसने मेरे को बताया कि गुरुजी वहाँ पे हैं, वो गुरुजी की जगह मेरे को शंकर जी बैठे दिखाई पड़े, और शंकर जी कभी गुरुजी दिख रहे हैं, कभी शंकर जी दिख रहे हैं। ये चीज कई बार देखी।
Ravi Trehanji is a senior disciple of Gurudev from Delhi and runs a sthan at Kirtinagar. His experience of seeing Gurudev's form was worth recording.
एक गुफा में एक रोशनदान से लाइट आ रही है, उसमें वो सलाखें सी लगी हुई है रोशनदान में, वर्टिकल बार्स लोहे की, वो वहां से रोशनी आ रही है, और जमीन पर बैठे हैं, गुफा की जमीन पर बैठे हैं। जिस तरह से आप पिक्चर में देखते हैं भगवान शिव का आकार, नीचे वो शेर की खाल है, गले में सांप है, बाजुओं में सांप है, त्रिशूल गड़ा हुआ है, ऊनी रमी हुई है? बट द फेस ऑफ गुरुजी, everything else that of Bhagwan Shiv, but the face of Guruji. Because I had asked him, उससे 2-3 दिन पहले ही, मैं गुरुजी मुझे आप वो दर्शन कराओ जो आप एक्चुअल में हैं, आप क्या है, आप जो नजर आते वो तो नहीं है, और चूंकि मेरा और आपका रिश्ता पिछले कई जन्मों से है, तो असल में आप क्या है, आई वॉन्ट टू सी यू इन रियल। तो एक बार तो ये, अगले दिन मैं जब गया, मैंने कुछ नहीं कहा उनसे, अभी शेयर तक नहीं किया, और मुझे देखते ही अपनी होठों पे उंगली रख के बोले, चुप, जो तूने देख लिया अब उसका जिक्र नहीं कर, वरना ब्रेक लग जाएगी। I didn't even share with him, and he said these words.
What you will hear next is an experience not even found in the scriptures. In his early years, Gurudev had to offer proof of his supernature to his new recruits. In this story, the recruits are Team Jwalaji. The location? Shivpuri in Gurgaon, where Gurudev lived in the early 70s. Shambhuji and Ramnathji from Himachal Pradesh came to visit Gurudev. He had initiated them into seva at his camp at Kathok. On Shambhuji's insistence, Gurudev opened his third eye, or Divya Drishti, to give him a glimpse of a separate reality. And this was more than what Shambhuji could bear. His son Pappu Pahadia recounts the story he heard from his father.
रात को ऊपर सोते थे छत के ऊपर
जी,
तो वहाँ सारे इकट्ठे थे, बैठे बैठे वो बात चली उसके बारे में।
किसके बारे में?
दिव्य दृष्टि के बारे में।
अच्छा।
तो रामनाथ जी तो वो कहते हैं ये सब ऐसे ही है, ये वो है, सो है, ये 5 मुखी शिव, ये कुछ नहीं होता, उन्हें ऐसे बनाई हुई बातें
जी।
तो पिताजी ने समझाया कि उसको, अरे आवड़ों वाली बात मत करा कर, ये सब चीजें हैं। वो कहता तो मुझे तो कुछ कभी देखा नहीं मैंने, कभी ये नहीं हुआ। तो गुरु जी बैठे हुए थे, हंस रहे थे
जी।
फिर उन्होंने थोड़ा इशारा किया कि भाई ये इसको कुछ दिखाना पड़ेगा। वो सो गए। सुबह सुबह ये 4 बजे के आसपास का टाइम था, तो उस वक्त बाहर गेट जो है, शिवपुरी की बात है
जी,
तो वहाँ वो गेट जो है किसी ने खटखटाया। गुरु जी उठे, उन्होंने पिताजी को बोला जाओ देखो कौन है, जाओ। तो रामनाथ जी भी उठ गए, तो नीचे आए, तो जैसे उन्होंने गेट को खोला और आगे देखा, तो आगे वो एक इतनी भयानक शक्ल वाला वो खड़ा हुआ है, उसकी शक्ल इतनी भयानक है जैसे राक्षसों की होती है। तो पिताजी थोड़ा सक पकाए और फिर पीछे हटके आके देखा तो रामनाथ जी ऊपर से उतर रहे थे। वो भी गए तो उन्होंने भी देखा, तो उनको भी वही सीन नजर आया। वो घबराए, फिर वो भागे, तो गुरु जी इतने में ऊपर से उतर के नीचे अपने कमरे में चले गए। तो जैसे वो कमरे में गए तो वहाँ गुरु जी का रूप जो है वो वहाँ देखा है, एक्चुअली उन्होंने 5 मुखी वाला जो है वहाँ अंदर कमरे में, वहाँ गुरु जी का वो रूप देखा तो वो घबरा गए। रामनाथ जी घबराए। तो पिताजी को तो खैर इन चीजों के बारे में पता था, वो तो जानते ही थे।
जी।
बस वो इतने जैसे वो घबराहट हुई हो गुरु जी उस वक्त अपने नॉर्मल उसमें आ गया और उनकी वो जो थी विद तो वो सारी वो बंद कर दी हो।
Raj Kapoor ji, who was in the room at that time and witness to this whole scene, remembers the story quite vividly, but a bit differently.
तो ये ऐसे था कि हम गुरुजी के पास गए। पहली दफा तो गए थे हम 1 या 2 दिन के बाद, गुरु पूर्णिमा के बाद। फिर उसके बाद फिर गए थे गुरुजी के पास। तो शंभू जी वहाँ थे, जो हिमाचल में ज्वाला जी टेम्पल के पुजारियों की फैमिली में थे एक। सो ही वाज गिवन 5 years बाय गुरुजी व्हेन ही वेंट टू हिमाचल प्रदेश। तो उनको 5 साल दिए थे कि बेटा तेरी एज तो खत्म हो गई थी। ही वाज इन वेरी बैड शेप, मैं तुझे 5 साल देंगे। तो शंभू जी वाज देयर। शंभू जी ने पूछा कि गुरुजी ये जो 5 मुख हैं, ये शिवपुरी की बात है कि गुरुजी ये पॉसिबल कैसे हो सकती है? गुरुजी कहते हैं बिल्कुल ठीक है बेटा, ये 5 मुख होते हैं और इसमें कोई ऐसी बात नहीं है। गुरुजी मुझे दिखाओ इसको। बेटा उसको तू बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकेगा तो देख ले बेटा, अगर तूने 5 साल लेने हैं जिंदगी के या ये मुख देखने हैं। गुरुजी मुझे मुख दिखा दो, मेरी जिंदगी जो भी है ले लो आप। तो व्हाट हैपेंड, यू नो, गुरुजी ने अपना चेहरा दिखाया। शंभू जी को वो 5 मुख दिखाए एंड ही फेंटेड। हम वहाँ खड़े हुए थे, किसी को दिखाई नहीं दिए, सिर्फ शंभू जी को दिखाई दिए एंड ही फेंटेड। गुरुजी ने इनको छींटे मारे, बिठा दिया। उसके बाद गुरुजी बाहर चले गए। तो हमने सब पूछा भी शंभू जी क्या हुआ? कहते ये सामने जो मुख है ये दिखा चले गए अपने रूप में। तो गुरुजी जो उनका कहना था कि मैं 5 साल बेटा ले लूंगा अगर ये मुख देखेगा, बट गुरुजी वाज सो जनरस, ही अगेन gave him 5 years and he died late in the 80s after spending 5 years जो उनको दी थी लॉन्ग लाइफ।
How did Shambhuji describe that 5-headed form of Gurudev?
He said me, I couldn't tolerate that. इतनी उसमें लाइट थी और ये जो मुख थे इतने बड़े बड़े थे, I couldn't tolerate it. And उसके साथ वो फेंट हो गई। और गुरुजी ने बताया कि बेटा इसको करने के लिए बड़ी शक्ति चाहिए, इसको देखने के लिए। उन्होंने फिर एग्जाम्पल भी दिया था कि बेटा जैसे लाइट को तुम देखते हो, अगर उसकी ज्यादा वोल्टेज हो तो उसके पावर ज्यादा हो तो यू कांट सी द लाइट।
Shambhuji's story is a mind opener. Let us shift the bioscope to other forms that people can have, that Gurudev did have, and you could. To put it in jest, Gurudev was a man of deceptive appearances. He looked like an ordinary, good-looking man, and everything about him was deceptively normal. When people spoke to him, they could sense a slightly different vibration. But unfortunately, he did not have wings like the angels do, nor did he have a visible halo like the Devtas do. When he chose to, he could give an appearance that was not normal or human. Some saw him in the Shiv Roop. Some, like Suresh Kohli from Sunet, saw him as a graphic on the wall, and Quatraji saw him in his light form. He shares the experience next.
It was day before Mahashivratri, so it was about 3 o'clock in the early morning. So about 3 o'clock, what do I see? That I have gone to the Sthan. There was a big queue. People were standing in big queue for darshaning of the Guru. So when my turn came, I went there inside. So I went there. I was standing. Some 2 people, they were just, one was asking the people to hurry up. Matha tekiye aur chaliye, matha tekiye aur chaliye. I went there, I kept standing, and he virtually pulled me from my arm and said, yes, abhi matha tekiye aur chaliye. मैंने कहा भाई, I will not go like this. पब्लिक जिस तरह मत्था टेक रही है, मैं इस तरह मत्था टेकने के लिए नहीं आया हूँ, ना मैं इस तरह मत्था टेकूंगा, मैं अपने हिसाब से मत्था टेकूंगा। तो कहने लगे हाँ पुत्र आ गया तू? मैं क्या हाँ गुरु जी, लेकिन मैं क्या गुरु जी मैं ऐसा तो मत्था नहीं टेकूंगा, आपको ये बताना होगा कि आप मेरे गुरु हैं, चरणों में मत्था तभी टेकूंगा कि जब आप मुझे ये विश्वास दिला देंगे कि आप मेरे गुरु हैं। तो उन्होंने कहा ओके बेटा। उन्होंने चौंकी मारी, पद्मासन में बैठे, पद्मासन पे बैठ करके उन्होंने हाथ उठाए एंड उनके उसको उठाने की देर है तो आज भी मैं बात करते हुए मेरे रोंगटे खड़े हो रहे हैं कि द सो डेज़लिंग लाइट, हंड्रेड्स ऑफ सन्स हैव अरिज़न। इतनी ज्यादा लाइट हो गई कि मैं आई कुडंट टॉलरेट, मैं उनके चरणों में गिर गया। जब उनके चरणों में गिरा तो उन्होंने दोनों मेरे सिर पे हाथ रख दिए और मुझे ये नहीं पता मैं कितनी देर उनके चरणों में पड़ा रहा, क्या हुआ क्या नहीं हुआ। जब मैंने उठाया तो बस वो रोशनी ही रोशनी थी। मैंने आशीर्वाद लिया एंड केम बैक। ये आई एम टॉकिंग ऑफ दिस इंस्टेंस sometimes in the year 1981.
Many great saints have showcased themselves in their Virat Roop, which is approximately 20 feet high. Krishna did it in the Mahabharata and Ogar did it in Gurudev's home. But I've never heard of a saint going from 5 feet 8 inches to 3 or 4 feet in a reverse manner. But being able to materialize and dematerialize his body, Gurudev had these capabilities, and Gupta Ji was a witness. Gupta Ji has been a disciple of Gurudev for decades and currently runs a sthan at Parwanu in Himachal Pradesh. He is a very popular man, but a very simple man. People who visit his sthan swear by him and his caring nature.
नूरपुर से हम लोग आए, उसे साथ ही गुरु जी के फॉर्म में गुरु जी गए वहाँ, तो गुरु जी वहाँ ठहरे हुए थे, तो फॉर्म पे बाहर खड़े, गुरु जी अंदर तक, तो उसमें हमने गुरु को देखा बड़े छोटे से कद में, तो फॉर्म में वो गुरु जी अंदर थे हॉल में, शीशे में हम देख रहे हैं बाहर, और गुरु जी बिल्कुल छोटे से कद में नजर आ रहे हैं हमें।
कितने कद में?
3-4 फुट में होंगे।
पर आप आँख खुले से देख रहे हैं?
हाँ, हम दूर थे, हम मिले नहीं मिल रहे थे, तो ये हमने एक्सपीरियंस देखा।
Ravi Trehanji recalls an interesting incident, the subject of which is bilocation.
He could be physically present at more than one place at the same time. So it's a matter of you reach a particular level when you are able to materialize or dematerialize yourself. ये बड़े इंस्टांसेस हैं गुरु जी के। नागपुर में तो बाहर बैठे हैं, कैंप लगा हुआ है, जो कैंप के लोग हैं वो उनके साथ बैठे हैं, बाहर ग्राउंड में पार्क में बैठे हैं, तो सडनली गुरु जी फेल के ही इज अबाउट टू गेट ए वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट कॉल। तो वो कमरे के अंदर चले गए, बाहर से ताला लगा हुआ है, और एक बंदा इस ग्रुप में से उठ के फर्स्ट फ्लोर पे जाने लगा, एंड ही सॉ कि अभी तो मैं बाहर गुरु जी को छोड़ के आया हूँ, एंड इज sitting in the room also and listening to the telephone. How can a person be present at two places? तो गुरुजी ने देख लिया और उसको बुला के समझाया, इशारा किया, तुमने इस बारे में कोई जुबान नहीं खोलनी।
And then?
So somehow it leaked out. And second thing, वो वक्त की बात भी है जब गुरुजी को एक बंदे ने उनके ऑफिस में मिला, और another person met Guruji at your farm. The difference was hardly 5 to 10 minutes. How could he be present at two different places at the same time? He knew the art, or he had acquired that power of materializing or dematerializing himself.
Did he ever refer to it, or is it conjecture on our part?
नहीं, conjecture नहीं, मुस्कुरा पड़े थे कि ये कैसा हो सकता है गुरुजी कि आपको वो बंदा आपके ऑफिस में मिला और 10 मिनट के बाद आपको ये फार्म पे भी मिल गया। बस मुस्कुरा दिए। मतलब he admitted, he accepted. He didn't elaborate, but he accepted.
KL Bakshi has been around for a long time and does seva at the Nazavgarh Sthan adjacent to Gurudev's Samadhi. He shares a mind-boggling experience. It's not a tale of two cities. It's a tale of two continents.
हमारे विंग कमांडर थे, नाम है भूल गया, गुड़गांव में,
वर्मा।
हाँ, वर्मा, विंग कमांडर वर्मा। उनके जो दामाद थे लंदन में,
सुनील,
मेरे पास हैं, सुनील भाई, उसका फोन आया मेरे पास, बख्शी जी, गुरुजी अभी मेरी दुकान पर आए हैं, तो किसके पास ठहरे हुए हैं? मैं क्या बोल रहा है यार, क्या बोल रहा है? गुरुजी मेरे पास बैठे हुए हैं। तू लंदन में हैं वो? कहते नहीं, वो आए हैं, गुस्से में थे और चले गए।
This conversation took place between Sunil, who lives in London, and Bakshiji seated with Gurudev at the Sthan in Gurgaon. The time difference between Sunil's sighting of Gurudev in London and Bakshiji's meeting Gurudev in Gurgaon was probably a few minutes. Apparently, in this kind of travel, visas aren't an issue. Dr. Shankar Narayan was another witness to Gurudev's bilocation. Bewilderment, its byproduct. On one occasion, Gurudev sent Dr. Shankar Narayan to visit a temple on a hilltop, which was established by Adi Shankaracharya, or so the legend goes. After spending some time there doing his mantras, he exited the temple to find Gurudev standing in the distance. When he reached the office, he saw Gurudev was there and had not left the office. No rocket, no helicopter, no sports car, just bilocation.
Have you ever seen any form of him, or have you ever seen him in your dreams or vision?
I will tell you one thing. He said, Dr. साहब वहाँ पे ऐसा है, हिल है, हिल में शिव मंदिर है, ऐसा कहते हैं। वहाँ का शिवलिंग का जो स्थापना की थी शंकराचार्य जी ने किया था। Then I went to the temple, I sat there and I just Mahamrityunjay jap, and I came back. Front I saw Guruji standing.
Was he there?
He was standing, at a distance. When I came back from the temple, I saw him actually standing there. And then Guruji was actually in the other office. So I told Guruji, क्या बात है? फिर तुम डरता क्यों है? फिर ये आदमी डरता, तुम हमेशा क्यों डरता रहता है?
Yoga introduces a concept called Nirman Kaya. It is a form created by internalizing energy into a graphic of oneself, sitting in a particular asana, and then using mantras to mold that energy into an energy body that looks identical to its physical one. I might want to call this playing the role of Brahma within. Ancient advanced yogis created Nirman Kayas to help them live out their karmas simultaneously with their physical ones. This helped them achieve much more productivity than using only their physical forms. As this is theory and only found in yoga manuals, I am trying to connect the dots and conjecture that Gurudev's bilocation may have been something similar. Many of his disciples have also been seen where they were not. The fact that this is a statement that describes multiple experiences shows that the skill and science is known to many, even if they are not conscious of it at a physical level. I do have a Nirman Kaya, but I have no conscious awareness of it. It appears in people's dreams and visions and solves their issues. It has also given them mantras which I have never heard of. We are fast friends for sure, but I guess invisible ones. Ashish ji, who does seva at the Sthan in Gopiganj, saw his guru, one of Gurudev's disciples, at a restaurant in Goa while his guru was physically present in another city.
I had gone for a holiday with my brother to Goa. This was about just 3-4 months I had started coming to the Sthan, and there we were at a hotel called Lemon Tree. We came out to have lunch. Sitting on the table, my brother asked me about what do you want to order. So I said, what do you say? He said, take the advice from the waiter. We asked him, he advised us the prawns. So while ordering the prawns, my brother said, I don't know why I'm getting a stomachache. I'll just use the restroom in the room I'll go and come back in 10 minutes. In the meantime, you order. So he left, and I was ordering prawns. I was going through the menu, and the minute I kept the menu down on the table, I see my guru sitting right across. So it was a shock to me. Obviously, I greeted him, and he said, "How come you're here?" I explained, I just came for some work with my brother. It was both work as well as holiday. So he said, "Okay, well, you're ordering food here. I believe the food is very good here." So I said, "Gee, we just ordered some prawns." And he smiled at me, and there and then, we just had 2 other words to speak. And he said, "Okay, I have to take a leave." And he left. So obviously in excitement, I called up a Guru Bhai of mine in Bombay. So I shared with him that, "You know what, I just met our Guru. He was right here." So he laughed. I said, "Why are you laughing?" He said, "Ashish, I've just come out from his office 2 minutes back. He's in Bombay." I said, "What are you talking?" "I just met him, we spoke, and he just left." So by the time I'm talking, obviously I got up again in a shock from a chair. I tried to go out to see where is he gone. Obviously I could not find him, and that whole incident just made me cold. It was for 10 minutes, I just couldn't get myself back to understand what just happened. So I learned 2-3 things in this I would love to share. First, that obviously as we said, he was at 2 different places at the same time. Second, about those prawns. And why I'm mentioning that, it just happened so that I had given up, I had taken up that I'm going to quit seafood. And that was a reminder maybe to that I had quit seafood. And third, that was the day I totally realized and decided that I'm going to completely surrender to my Guru. Or rather, it was my complete surrender to my Guru.
Many of my Guru Bhais have also been seen by their disciples at 2 different locations. Raj Kapoor Ji, who was witness to Shambhuji's experience of seeing Gurudev's 5-headed form, and his brother Nanak Chand Ji have been associated with the sthan for decades. Do listen to one more story of bilocation.
बल्कि उनका ये भी था कि अपने शिष्यों के रूप में भी वो दो जगह प्रेजेंट होते थे।
ओके।
उनमें से एक नानक भाई साहब थे जिनकी डेथ हुई है। तो वो कहते कि मैं तो उसके घर गया नहीं। एक बार मेरे से भी हैपनिंग हुआ। वो कहते जी ये बसंत विहार में वो लेडी कहने लगी, कहता आप मेरे घर आए थे, मैं भी उसके घर कभी नहीं गया था, बस गुरु जी ने हिसाब किताब अपना भी किया। शिष्यों के रूप में गए थे और इन्होंने ये किया। ये मुझे और नानक भाई साहब, हम दोनों को ऐसे हुआ था एक बार।
Though Raj Kapoor Ji is a person who justifies the phrase of still waters run deep, he is also soft-spoken, and that's not a great quality to have for an audio recording. So I just wanted to explain what he said. He was talking about how some of the people whom he had done seva for saw him and his elder brother Nanak Chand Ji at places where they were not. Virinder Ji is a retired judge from Haryana who is mentioned in the Bhrigu Samhita, which was written thousands and thousands of years ago by Rishi Bhrigu. To put it in humor, can fame have such longevity? His experiences are many and well articulated, almost like the dictation of a judge's order.
You've had some interesting experiences about Nirman Kaya. What were the kind of experiences, along with names, that you can share that actually verified Nirman Kaya to you?
When I met Guruji in the year 1984, to be precise, it was 16th of April 1984, when I met him for the first time, he instantly took me as a Shishya and he started calling me, you are a Guru, something which I didn't understand at that time. And he said, you also go for Seva. And then as I kept on meeting him on very regular basis, say within a week's time, 10 days' time, I would go and meet him. And he was so gracious, so kind to me. So one day he told me, I'm going to create 2 of you. One will be working in the court. I was a judicial officer, I was a judge at that time. And the other will stay with me. He'll work with me. I would hear these things, feel very happy about these things, but I wouldn't understand them. They were beyond my comprehension at that time. Then one day, Dr. Jaisingh Kharab and his wife, Krishna, I was in Rohtak at that time. It was 1988 to be precise. They walked down and they said, "Why were you walking so fast in the morning? Where were you going? We called you, you didn't respond." I said, "What time?" It's 6 a.m. I was in my prayers here at my house at 6 a.m. Must be somebody else. I thought, "No, it was you. You crossed right in front of our gate when we were standing outside." I had the habit of, trying to push these experiences back my head. And after a month or so, another incident happened. In the morning at my residence was this Mr. Bhan Singh to share a cup of tea with me at about 8 a.m. So I said, "Chaudhary Sahab, kaise aaye? How were you here?" Kati, you came over to my residence in this morning and you told me to come over and have a cup of tea with me at 8 a.m. But what time did I come? That was about 6 a.m. Then I went to Guruji. I asked him. He told me, "I told you already. I'll create two out of you." Those are the two experiences which I vividly remember.
Being present at two places, but receiving only one salary. Can we call that fair to the judge? I guess the good news is that Virenderji did not have to pay taxes for his number two. The story next is one of bilocation, not by presence, but by absence. Shri Krishna Deolekar, a resident of Mumbai, shares his story.
एक दिन गुरुजी ने मुझे घर से बुलाया और मैं वहाँ पहुँच गया गुड़गांव में। गुड़गांव में पहुँच गए के बाद गुरुजी ने मेरे को उधर अंदर बुलाया। दोपहर के टाइम था, 2 बजे का। "बेटा सेवा करो।" मुझे पता ही नहीं। 14 दिन के बाद गुरुजी बोला, "बेटा जा, अभी बॉम्बे चले जा।" मुझे, "गुरुजी मैंने तो ऑफिस में कुछ बताया, सीधा भाग के आपके पास आ गया।" "अच्छा, कोई चिंता मत कर, मैं बैठा हूँ ना, अब क्यों चिंता कर रहे?" उसके बाद में मैं टोटली भूल गया।
और फिर जब आप वापस आए तो
मैंने डर के ऑफिस में गया। देखो तो बस ऑफिस की आई, कोई बात ही नहीं करता। बाद में ऑफिस में गया, कैंटीन में गया, उधर भी कोई बात नहीं, क्योंकि कैंटीन वाले भी हमारे साथ होते हैं ना, जाने देते हैं, सब सर्व करते हैं। तो उसके बाद में वो कार्ड जगह पे था। नहीं तो कार्ड कोई भी लेट आते तो कार्ड अंदर रखते हैं, वो लोग देते नहीं कि पर्सनल में आएगा और कार्ड लेगा। कार्ड भी मेरा जगह पे था। कार्ड पंच किया, आगे गया तो पर्सनल डिपार्टमेंट में 2-3 दिन के बाद उनको मालूम पड़ता है ना, वो चेक करते वो प्रेजेंट है करके। उसके बाद में वो लोग ने कुछ पूछा नहीं, मैंने फॉर्म भी नहीं भरा। और बाद में देखेगा तो मैं चुप बैठा ना, किसी से कुछ बात नहीं किया। उसके बाद में मैं हैरान, उसके बाद में मैं ऑफिस पहुंच गया तो मैं हैरान हो गया कि कोई मेरे साथ बात ही नहीं करता है, कुछ भी नहीं। और ना पर्सनल डिपार्टमेंट, ना कोई किसी, सब कुछ जैसे था कि मैं उधर भी था या इधर ही है। उसके बाद में मैं देखा तो सैलरी भी आ गई। किसी को कुछ पता ही नहीं लगा कि क्या हुआ।
Being absent in a well-structured organization like Burroughs Wellcome, an international giant, and not being found out was possibly because either people saw him a few times as they normally did at their job, or their minds were blanked out to his absence. Whichever. It is a story of interest. I'm not sure which is more difficult to swallow, bilocation or invisibility. Gurudev practiced both and blatantly. Yoga accepts the fact that advanced yogis can make themselves invisible by creating an energy circle around themselves that will not allow normal people to see them. Though Gurudev never taught us how to do this, I noticed that when he had taken me to a famous temple called Badrinath, he waited outside and asked me to go and give a hug to the temple's deity. I was new and inexperienced, so felt it was blasphemous and therefore forced him to accompany me. There were huge lines which were being controlled by the temple priests. Both of us walked right through, and no one looked at us or stopped us. We entered and exited unnoticed. Bindu Lalwani took up seva as a very sincere part of her spiritual curriculum. She recalls 2 experiences her father shared with her.
So once what happened, that Papaji and Guruji, they went from Guruji's office in Connaught Place to Sector 7 in Gurgaon. And there was a huge crowd of people waiting there for Guruji. My father said, Guruji, it's going to take us a couple hours to even reach your room. There's so many people waiting. And Guruji said, "Tu to पहचानेंगे तो रोकेंगे ना?" That's it. Guruji, कैसे नहीं पहचानेंगे? आप सामने से निकल के जाओगे, आपको कैसे नहीं पहचानेंगे? They are waiting for you. And Guruji got out of the car and he started walking towards the gate, and he entered the house in front of all those people with Papaji in tow, and no one recognized him. Not one person. And they went straight to the room. So not only could he make himself invisible, like completely invisible, but he could also do the same thing for anybody who accompanied him. This was way back in 80s. And a very similar thing happened when Guruji and Papaji were in Srinagar. And their car broke down and they needed some auto parts. And they went to a shop close by. And there was a big group of Guruji, and the owner was lighting doop. So my dad whispered to Guruji, Guruji, he is lighting doop in front of your roop. He's not going to let you pay for your auto parts, knowing that Guruji will not buy anything if he can't pay for it. So Guruji said, don't worry about it, with the same simplicity. And would you believe, this man turns around and he asks, Hanji, what do you want? How can I help you? And Guruji actually bought his auto part, paid him, and they left. The man did not recognize Papa and Guruji.
Some of the supernatural acts that happened through him were with his full knowledge. Sometimes similar experiences happen to downlines, but without their conscious awareness. I do not know why, but here is an incident that proves the point. Ashish ji goes to an uncommon place in Kazakhstan and has an experience uncommon to logic. Maybe not easy to believe, but then spiritual power is not a common man's meal to digest. To believe or not to believe, that is the question. Your question.
So, Ashish ji, you had once mentioned to me that you were in Kazakhstan. People could not capture you in photographs, and while they could see you, but you were not captured in photographs. It sounds very dramatic. Did it really happen?
Yes, there's a place in Kazakhstan. It's about an hour drive from the main city. There's a lake there, and we had gone with a few friends. And when we stopped the car there on top of the mountain, and we got out, after I got out, in just about 4-5 minutes, I felt double, triple my size in my thoughts, in my feeling. I became huge and powerful, and my behavior and my talks was obviously much more funny to my friends and my wife. She was with me, and all of us there, and I started behaving as if I was the most powerful person all around, and I felt these were just small people all around, and my behavior, and then they were clicking pictures. I told my friend in a very funny way, in a giant way, that please don't, like that. Don't click me. And when he clicked me, and later when we saw that picture, it was only below my waist. Nothing above my waist could be seen. It was blank. The picture didn't come above my waist, but it's very difficult to explain the power and what I felt there.
So this place now, was this a very significant place that you had gone to, or was it just somewhere in the middle of a street?
The interpreter who was with us, I asked a few questions about the place, or what's so great about the place. So she explained us that there are many people who come there to meditate. She said, no, I don't know why, but many spiritual people, they try to come here to feel this air. So which maybe I also felt there was some energy, or there was something in the air And why? I don't know, because I just wanted to be alone, not to be around. That was another funny part. I wanted to be left alone, as if when you breathe air, you wanted to breathe more and more of that energy. I was enjoying it. And it didn't happen once. There was another picture when a friend of mine who was with me and trying to click. And in that picture, again, I was invisible.
Kanika Khanna, Ashish Ji's wife, adds testimony to his experience.
Kanika, I was told by your husband Ashish that there was a very interesting experience in Almaty, Kazakhstan, when he almost disappeared from view. Now, is this correct?
Yes, it is correct. And this was around, as far as I can recall, around 3-4 years back that we were visiting Almaty with a couple of more friends. And one of the days we had gone sightseeing to this frozen lake. So we were getting a lot of pictures clicked, and towards the end of it, there was, we happened to sit on a rock, and we said Ashish was sitting there. And he seemed to be actually, yes, now I remember, he seemed to be thinking about something as well. He seemed a little lost. And then I insisted on getting a picture clicked, the last of the lot, before we left from that place. And he didn't seem too keen on getting clicked. So when we clicked the picture, we sat back in our car and drove back to the hotel. And later on, when I was going through the photo library on my phone, this one particular picture, Ashish, his body shoulder above wasn't there. So it was a headless picture basically.
But so he was visible to you, but not in the picture.
Yes. While getting clicked, he was sitting right next to me, so very much visible.
Asha Sekhri is a lady who has had great faith in Gurudev for over 40 years. The story next is of her daughter's wedding in the 80s. One bride and 2 miracles? That was his contribution. 1, he visits the bride at her wedding home on the wedding day and no one finds out. 2, he shows up in Oslo, Norway in astral form years later to ensure her protection. Believable? Unbelievable? Hang in there.
मेरी बिटिया की शादी थी, रिश्ता उसका आया था नॉर्वे से, और वो रिश्ता भी गुरुजी ने ही फाइनल करा था, क्योंकि मैंने बोल दिया था कि जब तक गुरुजी हाँ नहीं करेंगे हम ये बातचीत आगे नहीं बढ़ेगी। तो गुरुजी ने कहा कि ये लड़का हमारे लिए ही बना है, हम ये रिश्ता यही फाइनल करेंगे, यही होगा। तो उसका रिश्ता वगैरह फाइनल कर दिया। तो उसकी अब शादी की डेट फिक्स हो गई 16 जुलाई, और 16 जुलाई जब डेट उसकी शादी की फिक्स हो गई, सारी तैयारियां हमने करनी शुरू कर दी। अब वो शादी वाले दिन जिसिया ने फोन करा गुरुजी को, गुरुजी अगर आप शादी में नहीं आओगे तो मैं जयमाला नहीं डालूंगी, मैं वेट करूंगी आपकी स्टेज पे खड़ी होगी। तो उन्होंने बोला बेटा माँ तेरी आएगी, सब आएंगे, बच्चे आएंगे, मेरा इतनी पब्लिक में आना बहुत मुश्किल है। अब सबको पता था कि इस शादी में गुरुजी जरूर पहुंचेंगे। बेटी मेरी 2nd फ्लोर पे तैयार वगैरह होकर पार्लर से आई और वहाँ बैठी थी, और पीछे एक लकड़ी का दरवाजा था जो लॉक रहता था हमेशा, तो बैक साइड पे खुलता था। तो मुझे नहीं पता, मैं भी नीचे थी, कहाँ थी, कैसे थी। जब बारात आई तो मैं बिटिया को लेने गई ऊपर, तो मेरे को कहती गुरुजी आए थे। मैंने कहा गुरुजी कहाँ से आए थे, अब तो गेट पे खड़े हैं। किसी बंदे ने नहीं देखा कि गुरुजी आए हैं, इवन मैंने नहीं देखा, मेरे हस्बैंड ने नहीं देखा। तो उसने बोला गुरुजी मैं ना आपको, मैं बहुत दूर चली जाऊंगी आपसे, तो मैं आपको एक कप चाय पिलाना चाहती हूँ बना के। तो उन्होंने कहा कि बेटा इतना 20 किलो का तो तूने लहंगा डाला हुआ है, तो चाय कहाँ बनाएगी, तो मुझे पानी पिलाया एक गिलास। तो उसने गुरुजी को पानी पिलाया। देन वो फिर गुरुजी का हाथ उसने पकड़ लिया और रोई, कहती गुरुजी आप मेरे को इतनी दूर भेज रहे हो, तो मेरे पास आपकी निशानी क्या होगी। गुरुजी ने अपनी रिंग जो 40 ईयर्स से पहनी हुई थी उन्होंने वो उतार के मेरी बिटिया को उठा दी और वापस चले गए। मैं ऊपर गई तो वो उसने मुझे बताया कि मम्मी गुरुजी आए थे, मुझे देखो मिल के गए और मुझे अपनी ये रिंग दे गए कि बेटी तू मुझे जब भी याद करेगी इस रिंग की तरफ देखना, मैं तेरे को वही मिल दूंगा।
I think Aladdin's lamp was quite technologically challenged when compared to Gurudev's supernatural capabilities. People who leave their bodies do not normally appear with them, but then, sometimes, logic just fails. Keeping his word and performing a miracle at the same time. Do hear the story.
उसके बाद जब वो नॉर्वे चली गई तो नॉर्वे जाने के बाद क्या था कि बिजनेस अपनी फैमिली के बिजनेस को ज्वाइन करने के लिए उसको नॉर्वेजियन लैंग्वेज सीखनी बहुत जरूरी थी। तो उसने वहां जाकर क्लासेस ज्वाइन की और वो जहाँ रहती है वो बड़ा हिली एरिया है और बड़ा क्वाइट का एरिया है, लोग कम नजर आते हैं उधर। तो शाम के टाइम कहती 6:30 बजे के बाद जब मैं क्लास अटेंड कर वापस आ रही थी तो 3 लड़के मेरे पीछे पड़ गए। मैं आगे और वो लड़के मेरे पीछे और कहती जैसे जैसे मैं अपने पैरों की स्पीड बढ़ाती थी उनकी स्पीड भी बढ़ जाती थी। कहती मैंने गुरुजी की रिंग को मत्थे से लगाया और मैंने सिर्फ बोला, मैं कहा गुरुजी मेरी रक्षा करना। वो कहती ये मेरी कहने की देर है। तो मुझे ऐसे लगा कि पीछे से आवाज और तेज हो गई है। तो जब मैंने पीछे मुड़ के देखा तो मेरे पीछे गुरुजी चल रहे थे और वो लड़के उनके पीछे थे। कहती घर तक वो मेरे साथ आए और जैसे मैंने घर का लॉक खोल के पीछे मुड़ के देखा कि गुरुजी को बोलती अंदर चलिए, तो कहती गुरुजी वहां पर नहीं थे।
Rajneesh Sharma, husband of Gurudev's youngest daughter Alka, was left bewildered that he had a late father-in-law with capabilities of omnipresence. Let's hear what he has to say.
Rajneesh ji, you had some experiences before your marriage to Alka ji, which gave you an impression that there was Gurudev's presence in your house. Can you tell us what that was about?
One of the ladies who used to live on the first floor, in front of our house, she came to our house and she was chatting with my mom. And so they were chatting about the wedding preparations and all. And while chatting, she saw a photo of Guruji on the wall, and she said that. So is he your relative? And then my mom said no, he's our Guruji. And so that lady, has he come to your house for a few days? And my mom said no, that he's not, because he's not in this world. He's already passed away. And that lady said no, how is that possible? Because I see him every day, walking around your house for last few days. So why is that you're saying that he's already passed away? So my mom said no, it is not possible. You must have seen someone else, because he passed away in 1991. She said around 5 years back he passed. That lady did not, accept that. She said, no, I cannot, accept this, because I am seeing him every day. I saw him last evening as well. So why are you saying this? And then they haggled for few minutes about this, and she said, my mom was saying that you must have misunderstood, and she said no, it is not. I saw this person. I clearly remember, because I've been seeing him for last 3-4 days, so I cannot be mistaken. Then they realized that this must have been a miracle of Gurudev, because we were experiencing few other miracles also at that time. So that happened, and we were all very amused and happy about that Guruji was around us, and he was looking after us.
There have been several sightings of Gurudev after he left his body. Critics may call this wishful thinking or an overactive imagination, but the truth is that you could not put anything past his capabilities. What to most human beings would seem hard to swallow was normal in his world. Here are a few glimpses unbelievable. Sarojji and her husband Narendraji, who are mentioned in the Bhrigu Samhita and whose stories feature in other podcasts, are two amongst many who were exposed to these glimpses.
महारुद्र यज्ञ हुआ था 92 जुलाई में, और वो हमने यज्ञ भृगु संहिता में ही सुना था कि यज्ञ करना है, पृथ्वी लोक पे यज्ञ की बहुत जरूरत होगी।
उसमें अक्सर ये आया कि हे पुत्र, मुझे लघु रुद्र यज्ञ चाहिए, मुझे महारुद्र यज्ञ चाहिए, मुझे अति महारुद्र यज्ञ चाहिए। हमें इन यज्ञों के बारे में नहीं पता था, और फिर उसके पश्चात जब हमें इतनी खुशी हुई कि गुरु महाराज का ये वचन है कि उनको यज्ञ चाहिए, तो फिर हमने महारुद्र यज्ञ को संपन्न करने के लिए अपने घर में एक यज्ञशाला बनाई और उसमें 15-16 ब्राह्मण ने पार्टिसिपेट किया। जिस दिन हमारे यहाँ पर यज्ञ होना था उससे एक दिन शाम को पूर्व लगभग 7:30 बजे के करीब हमारे घर में जहाँ गुरु जी का स्थान बना हुआ है वहाँ पर गुरु जी को हमने फिजिकल रूप में देखा फॉर अ सेकेंड। जब हमने देखे और हमने ये कहा एकदम गुरु जी, देन ही डिसअपीयर्ड। उसके पश्चात यज्ञ पूरा हो गया और यज्ञ पूरा होने के पश्चात एक दिन हम लोग सब परिवार के सदस्य ड्राइंग रूम में डाइनिंग टेबल पर बैठे हुए थे, खाना खाने के लिए तैयार थे लगभग 7:30 पौने 8 बजे शाम को। तो अचानक हमें लगा सभी एकदम बोले कि कोई पीछे गया वाइट कपड़ों में यज्ञशाला की तरफ। तो जब हम इतने कॉन्शियस होते कि कौन आया तो हमने सबने एकदम ये कहा कि गुरुजी ना हो कहीं। तो उसके पश्चात जब हम बैठे हुए वहाँ देख ही रहे थे तो गुरुजी सीढ़ियों से वाइट कपड़ों में और वाइट चप्पलों के पहने हुए सीढ़ियों से नीचे उतरे, जिनको हमने नीचे उतरते हुए देखा। मेरी धर्मपत्नी ने भी, मैंने भी, और बच्चे छोटे थे। ठीक इसी प्रकार से कुछ समय के पश्चात, कुछ साल बीत जाने के पश्चात गुरुजी को जहाँ हमारा घर है वहाँ हमने गुरुजी का स्थान बनाया हुआ है। उस स्थान के ऊपर मेरी जो बेटी है जो आजकल PhD कर रही है, उसने गुरुजी को खड़े हुए देखा जस्ट फॉर फ्यू सेकेंड्स, और इससे पहले वो रिकलेक्ट करके ये बताती को गुरुजी हैं, तो गुरुजी वहाँ से भी अदृश्य हुए। और ठीक इसी प्रकार से भी मुझे भी एक बार उनकी कृपा से करनाल में उनको ऐसे खड़े हुए देखने का सौभाग्य स्थापित हुआ।
I have known Sudhir since we were kids. Life for him has been a roller coaster ride. Super success and international living to alcoholism. Destiny has taken him on a seesaw. Though he gave up alcohol with great difficulty and became clean, he still had problems galore. Solutions came to him as a sighting of Gurudev years after he had left his body, and that's when the mahaguru took him under his wing. Listen on.
One morning I got up, I was lying in bed, eyes wide open, and suddenly a hush fell, silence, my eyes were made to close, and there I see a gentleman larger than life, about 7-8 feet tall, shirt sleeves folded up in white, looking at me with very kindly eyes, and he put his hand out, and he looks at me and says, "Aput," and he holds my hand, and all my senses have shut down. There's only my awareness of this person who I've never seen before, and from the back of my head, as if it were, there is a sound. There's a voice saying loudly, "Guruji of Gurgaon," and everything returns. The outwardly awareness returns. The sights and sounds and of the normal life in my room return, and I go to the computer and I look for Guruji of Gurgaon. Few hits and misses. I do get it. I get to sector 10, and there, lo and behold, is Guruji and his images. And this is not a vision or a dream. This is also, it has happened a number of times thereafter. Whenever Guruji has appeared, it has always been, I've been in my senses fully. It's a very clear dimension of here and now, as if you and me were here. And something of great power and peace made you close your senses.
Ravi Trehanji believes Gurudev now practices as a part-time travel agent in the afterlife. Listen to his accusations.
Once there was a family from Faridabad. They had many problems. And Gurudev met them in Faridabad and recommended कि तुम गुड़गांव चले जाओ, वहां जाके मत्था टेको तो तुम्हारी प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाएगी। तो बोले हम तो कभी गए नहीं, कोई बात नहीं। He accompanied that family up to Gurgaon and left them at Jai Cinema. Sthan is just at the back of Jai Cinema. I'm talking of the earlier it used to be called Jai Cinema. It's a place where you have the Haldiram's outlet now. Having dropped them there, when they entered the Sthan at Sector 7, when they saw Gurudev's photograph, that family asked the people around there, who is this person? And they were told, this is Gurudev's photograph, and he is no more. He says, what are you talking? अभी तो उन्होंने हमें जय सिनेमा के सामने छोड़ा और बताया कि तुम जाके मत्था टेको और तुम्हारी जो भी कोई प्रॉब्लम है, जो भी कोई समस्या है, वहां जाके बोल दो और तुम्हारा काम हो जाएगा. There have been many such instances where people have seen or have had the glimpses of Gurudev either at Gurgaon and very frequently at Neelkantha.
As if these stories were not enough, we still felt like adding a few more tales of the innocents who saw him in his physical form long after he had passed on, even though they never knew him. We now introduce you to Bittuji, who came to Gurudev as a young boy in his half pants. He was a classmate of Gagguji, Gurudev's nephew. He was suffering from a serious illness. Once Gurudev had cured him, he hung in there and became a part of Gurudev's coterie, one of the 4 musketeers. He spent a lot of time in handling the operations of the Sthan and dealing with visitors, something he does to this day. Over to him.
यहाँ कंस्ट्रक्शन चल रही थी जी. तो एक लेबर आदमी जिसने रोज दिहाड़ी करनी है, उसका कोई यहाँ से हमारे से लेना देना नहीं कुछ. बोला कहाँ है गुरुजी? तो किसी ने फोटो की तरफ बोला वो रे गुरुजी वो फोटो. तो कहाँ मिलेंगे? बोला ये तो शरीर छोड़ चुके हैं. उसने ऐसा लेबर को मतलब कोई बता रहा है. कहता कैसे क्या बात कर रहे हो बाबूजी? क्या मतलब कि ये साहब तो रोज सफेद कपड़ों में यहाँ पे खड़े होकर सिगरेट पी रहे होते हैं. जहाँ लंगर बनता है क्या वहाँ टहलते हैं और ये सिगरेट पीते हैं.
So the laborer who would see him during the construction period at Nazafgarh was too innocent to know that Gurudev did not have a physical body and what he was seeing was an apparition. But what makes this incident very quirky is possibly that Gurudev never read the small print at the bottom of the cigarette packet that said, "Cigarette smoking is dangerous for health." Maybe the fact that he was seen smoking around at a non-physical level might give the cigarette companies an additional market, an ethereal one. Devraj has been involved with the Sthan ever since he was a young kid. Today, he does seva at both the Mumbai and Lonavala Sthans. He has had many experiences and shares one that he himself found hard to believe. Again, it's not a tale of 2 cities, but this time, a tale of 2 babies.
So this incident is more than a decade old. Around the time Preeti and I just got married, we were just beginning our lives together, settling into our careers. And interestingly, at this very juncture, there was a sort of a subtle request from both our families that we should consider starting our own family, especially given my mom's indifferent health and her hope that she gets to spend some time with her grandchild or grandchildren. And Preeti and I discussed this, and we felt that it was something that we were not necessarily averse to. So we're going to try and, fulfill this wish for our families. But we took it too seriously, I feel, and it became something like a task or a project or an assignment. And the stress of achieving a result actually started turning out to be counterproductive, which then caused discomfort in our own lives. I went to the Sthan and I approached Gurudev mentally. And I shared with him what my predicament was and why we are trying to do what we're trying to do and how it's causing this havoc in our lives mentally. And I ended it with a very strange request to him. I said, Gurudev, I have heard that you're omnipresent. And if that is true, then I request you to bless us with twins. For the next month and a half, every Thursday that I went to the Sthan, I repeated the same request to Gurudev. And I think it sounded more like a challenge to his omnipresence. Until one fine Thursday, as I bent down and matha tekod at the Sthan, I heard a voice that said to me in Hindi, "Tujhe judwa honge aur dono bete honge." And I was shocked. I mean, I don't know how I reacted at that stage, but it was one of the first times that I'd heard a voice. I didn't know how to react. I just moved out of the Sthan. We were supposed to go out on a trip immediately later. And we came back from that trip and, we discovered that Preeti was expecting. And when we did the sonography, they said she was expecting since a month. And they gave us the news that we were expecting twins. And we were shocked. I mean, completely shocked. More often than not, I think in more than 99% of the cases, fraternal twins are always one boy and one girl. And Preeti insisted on buying half of all the wraparounds in pink. And she asked me for my opinion. I said, what if we have two boys? And one of them is always going to ask you, why was I wrapped in pink? Told her that I'm completely confident we'll have two boys. To be very honest, I wasn't. But I'd heard what Gurudev said. And lo behold, when we got into the surgery room and he delivered the twins, they were both boys. And we had tears rolling down our eyes, but I guess it was for different reasons. It was the first time that I realized the omnipresence of Gurudev. The fact that he had to manifest what's going to happen, possibly before it has already happened.
Rhythmji, who does seva at Dehradun, shares an experience with the Murti or statue of Gurudev at Asthal. There have been more than a few experiences people have had with this statue. For Rhythm, it turns its head. For Alpana, a regular visitor and an ardent devotee, it turns blue. And for others, it provides answers to their prayers. Asthal is a place that was bought to extend the deaf school Gurudev had inspired decades ago at Dehradun. It had the shell of a Shivalaya that had waited for 16 years to be started. Gurudev appeared in a dream and asked for it to be completed. The Murti of the Shiv Parivar was bought from Jaipur and had waited for acquisition for 22 years. Asthal has one of the best look-alike statues of Gurudev, and there is a magic to the place. Karamjit Ji, who is a devotee of vintage, shares a strange story of how Gurudev mentioned to him the making of the Asthal Sthan at Dehradun 35 years before its acquisition. He topped that up by showing him a vision of the place to come.
करमजीत, आपने 1.5 साल पहले कहा कि गुरुदेव ने आपसे कहा था कि स्थल यहाँ पे देहरादून में स्थान आएगा. उसके बारे में आप क्या बता सकते हैं और कब कहा, क्या कहा?
गुरुजी ने कहा था कि बेटा एक स्थान वहाँ बनेगा और बहुत से लोग वहाँ आएंगे और कई लोगों का उद्धार होगा वहाँ.
कहाँ पे?
देहरादून में.
और कोई वर्णन किया था उन्होंने? कोई उन्होंने डिस्क्राइब किया कहाँ बनेगा, कैसे बनेगा, क्या होगा?
ये कुछ नहीं बताया था उन्होंने. सिर्फ देहरादून का जिक्र किया था और ये नहीं बताया था वो कहाँ बनेगा. ना उन्होंने बताया ना मैंने पूछा. लेकिन देहरादून का जिक्र जरूर हुआ है. वो तो मेरे को वैसे ही उनको दिखाया उन्होंने. मेरे को
क्या दिखाया?
जो दिखाया चारों तरफ पहाड़ होंगे, उसके बीच में वो स्थान होगा.
तो जब आप स्थल पे आए थे आपको क्या वही दृश्य नजर आया?
बिल्कुल वही चीज मुझे महसूस हुई थी. वही चीज मुझे वहाँ महसूस हुई. मैं इसीलिए वहाँ गया था. यही देखने के लिए वहाँ गया था. और यही चीज मैंने बहुत साल पहले गुरुजी के होते ही मुझे सपने में वो सब चीजें उन्होंने दिखाई.
सपने में दिखाई थी?
जी. सपने का मतलब ये होता है कि जब आप हर क्षेत्र में जाते हो, जाग भी रहे हो और सो भी रहे हो.
समझ रहा.
वो अवस्था होती है जिसको कि आदमी कहता है कि ध्यान अवस्था में जाना.
Let's take a virtual audio tour of the place with Rhythmji.
Have you had any experience at the Shivalaya that you'd like to share with us?
There is one experience that comes to my mind. Guruji always tells us that one should sit in the mandir and do their part. So one time I was alone. I go there to the sthan to light a diya practically every day. And I was sitting in the mandir, not in the sthan. I was sitting in the mandir. I was facing the murti, but not straight opposite me, towards my left. And my back was against a pillar, and I was doing my part. I don't remember if the part lasted for what amount of time, but it was definitely more than 10-15 minutes. And I looked up at the murti, and I could clearly see Gurudev's face facing me, and there was a slight smile on the murti. The current murti that is there is a smile, but the smile the way he was looking at me was very, very different. To the extent where I can safely say that his neck had shifted and it was looking at me.
And are you sure this wasn't your imagination?
No, I'm very sure it was not my imagination, because I don't tend to agree to these things very fast. So I sat there for a good 10-15 seconds, re-looked at it, and when I re-looked at it, there was definite smile on the face. A marble murti, there was some life in that. That much I'm very confident of. This was, in my mind, a way of him showing me his presence. So I bowed down to the murti, lit a dhoop, and walked out.
A dozen of Gurudev's disciples were involved in the making of this murti. 65 or more disciples and their downlines did the sthapna and performed the pran pratishtha, or the rituals to bring this murti to life. A practice followed in the establishment of most temples. The more powerful the people involved in the sthapna, the more powerful the temple. During the sthapna of this murti, Nitin Gadekar from Mumbai had gazed at the sky and was surprised to see a perfectly formed Om in the clouds. It wasn't psychological. The whole cloud was shaped like an Om, and he showed it to me. In keeping with the subject, it is interesting to note that Gurudev's statue at Asthal in Dehradun has developed a consciousness of its own. Many have experienced several amazements. Alpana, who is a new entrant to Gurudev's flock, has stories that we felt should be shared.
I went to Astal because I was having a lot of financial problem, and it was the worst period of my life. I went to Astal and it was a beautiful experience. Since I'm in Dehradun, I would drive and I would go there and sit for a while in the temple. Once when I was sitting, I started communicating to Gurudev's murti, I used to feel so heavy, so I used to speak to him. I felt he was my father, And once I was speaking to him, and you won't believe, he smiled back at me. My son, he lost his job in Canada. I was very disturbed. So I went to the temple that day, and I just started howling in a way, and I was speaking to him. I said, you have to give him a job. I don't know what you're going to do. I felt he was listening to me. In the morning, he called me up and he said, Mama, I've got a call from Hilton, and they've called me for an interview, and you won't believe he got the job. And one more beautiful experience I had gone to the temple, and I felt that it was not Gurudev, Shiv was sitting there with folded hands, and I could see the light around him, that aura, that light, and he's meditating there.
When you say you saw Shiv sitting there, did you see a form of Shankar? The one that we see in photographs?
Yes, something like that, and I could see a light emitting around his head also. पर उस दिन जिस दिन दर्शन हुए थे, उस दिन बिल्कुल ब्लू दिखी थी, जैसे जो उनकी फोटोग्राफ है वैसे मुझे दिखी. वो मेडिटेशन पोज में बैठे हुए हैं और मूर्ति ब्लू है
और सर पे जो जटा है उनकी वैसे दिखी, और ऊपर से पूरी लाइट, मतलब आई कुड पूरी लाइट मुझे दिखी, जैसे ऑरा होता है वैसा मुझे पूरा दिखा। एक बार नहीं, दो बार दिखा। मतलब मुझे लगा कि मेरी शायद आंखें खराब हो गई हैं, बट जब मैंने दोबारा देखा तो मुझे वही रूप दिखा उनका।
This, besides seeing Gurudev's statue in blue, you have now seen that statue smile back at you, and you're sure this was not imagination?
No, it was not imagination, but my life has been changed. That ठंडक बोलते हैं ना, एक ठंडक पड़ गई दिल में, that पंजाबी में कहते हैं ठंड पड़ गई. I've got that. I'm so happy and so thankful.
We live lives on earth in delusion. Our perceptions are limited to the senses. Our eyes can only see the 7 colors of the ray of light. That is 1/7 of the division of a light ray. Because of these limitations, we are able to look, but not see. Most people cannot even connect to their own unconscious minds and are therefore stuck with the limitations of the conscious. We can't even see spirits. How would we see the advanced forms like Shiv? Divine beings come with their set of competencies. They have forms of self-recognition. While some may manifest with Shiv consciousness, others would have forms of asuras and beings from lower planes. The conscious eye can see neither. So the confusion, so the disbelief, and so this biography. देख कर तेरी तस्वीर, देख कर तेरी तस्वीर को आईना हम रह गए, आईना हम रह गए।